My skin burned as if scalded by hot coffee when the words left Natalie's perfectly painted lips. "Adam, darling," she announced to the entire Anderson dining room, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she gestured dismissively in my direction, "we've decided the Royal Pearl accommodations simply won't suit everyone's sensibilities. I'm certain Rachel understands this isn't quite her element." 20 faces turned toward me in unison, silverware freezing mid-air. The elaborate Maldives vacation plans Natalie had spent 40 minutes detailing with architectural precision, complete with actual blueprints spread across the polished mahogany, suddenly transformed into a public execution of my dignity. My husband Lucas's knee pressed against mine beneath the table, his body tensing beside me like a coiled spring. "My name is Rachel, I'm 32 and a former graduate student with a financial secret. This is the story of how I turned exclusion into the most expensive lesson my mother-in-law ever received." "If Rachel isn't welcome, then I'm not going either," Lucas announced, his voice slicing through the suffocating silence. The muscle in his jaw twitched, the involuntary tell I'd come to recognize whenever he suppressed genuine anger. Natalie's practiced smile hardened into the glacial expression I'd endured for 3 years since marrying her precious son. "Don't be absurd, Lucas. The entire family will be there. Your cousins are flying in from Switzerland." Her manicured hand adjusted a pearl earring. "You can't possibly miss it because your wife isn't accustomed to these environments." "She's right, Lucas," his sister Heather interjected, swirling her cabernet with studied nonchalance. "Remember how uncomfortable Rachel looked at the yacht club fundraiser? It would be cruel to subject her to 2 weeks of that." What Heather conveniently omitted was how she'd accidentally knocked over a tray of canapés onto my dress that evening, then loudly offered to find me something more appropriate, while society photographers circled like sharks. "It's fine," I whispered, touching Lucas's arm gently. "You should go with your family." The flash of triumph in Natalie's eyes made my throat constrict. Another victory for the woman who'd made it her mission to excise the coffee shop girl from her son's life since the day Lucas had brought me home. When I met Lucas while serving espressos to fund my business degree, he stood apart from the other wealthy patrons, kind, unassuming, and treating me like a human being rather than an automated caffeine dispenser. As our relationship deepened, I believed I'd found someone who valued me for myself. What I hadn't anticipated was Natalie Anderson's systematic campaign to drive us apart. Natalie wasn't merely rich, she was generationally wealthy, the kind who considered commercial first class to be roughing it. From our initial introduction, she made it painfully clear that a barista had no place among the Andersons. "Darling," she'd say to Lucas while I sat directly across from her, "did you hear Victoria Rothschild is back from Milan? Still single and asking about you." For 3 years, I endured her relentless undermining at every family gathering. "Oh, Rachel dear, is that dress from a department store?" Or, "How fascinating that you used to serve coffee. It must be so nice to never have to work again." What Natalie didn't know, what no one except Lucas knew, was that while I was pulling espresso shots and studying, I'd also been quietly building a cryptocurrency empire since its infancy. Those early investments had multiplied exponentially, creating a fortune that dwarfed even the Anderson holdings. But I maintained my modest lifestyle, reinvesting profits and keeping my wealth private. Lucas respected my decision, understanding it was the only genuine way to know who truly valued me as a person. As the vacation planning dinner concluded, Natalie practically vibrated with self-satisfaction. "I've reserved the entire Royal Pearl Island for 2 weeks," she repeated for perhaps the 5th time. "Private beaches, personal chefs, helicopter excursions, only the best for the Andersons." I nodded politely even as she deliberately excluded me from her elaborate plans. During our drive home, I wasn't plotting how to change her mind. I was checking my phone for a very specific confirmation. 6 months earlier, when Natalie first mentioned booking Royal Pearl Island, I'd made discreet inquiries. The luxury resort had been struggling financially during the economic downturn, and its owner was seeking a confidential buyer. Through several shell companies, I had acquired not just the resort but the entire island, maintaining the existing management team in anticipation of this precise moment. The awaited email arrived just as Lucas turned onto our street. "Acquisition complete. All documentation finalized. Royal Pearl Island is officially yours." "You're unusually quiet," Lucas observed as we entered our modest home, the one Natalie constantly suggested we upgrade to something more appropriate for an Anderson. "Just thinking," I replied, unable to suppress a small smile. "I'm so sorry about my mother," he sighed, loosening his tie. "I'll tell her tomorrow that we are both staying home." I took his hands in mine. "Actually, I think you should go." His eyebrows shot upward. "Without you?" "Absolutely not." "Trust me," I said, feeling my plan crystallize. "I believe it's time your mother learned that appearances can be profoundly deceptive." The next morning, as the Andersons boarded their private jet to the Maldives, I initiated the next phase. Natalie had no idea her meticulously planned vacation was about to deliver an unforgettable lesson about judging people by their occupation. While their plane crossed the Indian Ocean, I was making my own arrangements. My laptop displayed the resort's security feeds, an owner's privilege that would prove invaluable. I had established a secure connection that allowed me to monitor everything remotely from our home office. The night before their departure, I had pulled Lucas aside and revealed everything, my true financial status and my ownership of the resort. He was stunned at first, but then broke into laughter, understanding immediately why I had kept it private. I made him promise to maintain the secret during the trip, playing along with my plan while I monitored everything from home. The Anderson entourage arrived at Royal Pearl Island Resort that afternoon. Through the surveillance system, I watched as Natalie led her family procession across immaculate beaches toward the luxury villas, already mentally composing the social media posts that would ignite envy among her high society competitors. "Welcome to Royal Pearl Island," the resort manager William greeted them with the knowing smile I'd carefully choreographed. "We've been expecting you." Natalie beamed. "Everything looks magnificent. I assume the presidential villa is prepared for our arrival." "About that," William replied, consulting his tablet with practiced concern. "There seems to be a slight change in arrangements. The owner is currently occupying the presidential villa." Natalie's perfectly maintained expression collapsed into confusion. "That's impossible. I specifically booked the entire island. There shouldn't be any other guests." "The owner isn't a guest, Mrs. Anderson," William explained patiently. "They own the property and retain final authority over all accommodations." "Well, who is this owner? I demand to speak with them immediately." Natalie's voice escalated, drawing the attention of other family members. William smiled professionally. "Of course. If you'll all follow me to the main pavilion, the owner has left specific instructions regarding your arrival." The family was escorted to an elegant open-air structure overlooking the turquoise lagoon. On a large display screen, a video began playing. My face appeared, and I observed through the security feed as Natalie's expression transformed from irritation to absolute shock. "Hello, Anderson family," my recorded self said pleasantly. "Welcome to my island." I paused meaningfully. "Yes, you heard correctly. I own Royal Pearl Island Resort, along with several other luxury properties worldwide." The stunned silence shattered with Natalie's audible gasp. Lucas tried to suppress his smile, having been informed of the truth just before boarding. I had pulled him aside and whispered the reality of my wealth and ownership of the resort. "You see," I continued on screen, "while you were busy judging me for serving coffee and assuming I couldn't navigate luxury experiences, I was quietly building an empire. That barista you left behind? Her net worth exceeds the entire Anderson fortune many times over." Natalie collapsed into a nearby chair, her designer handbag tumbling unnoticed to the floor. Heather's complexion had transitioned to an interesting shade of chartreuse. "Now, regarding your accommodations," I continued pleasantly. "Natalie, you'll be staying in our economy villa. It's quite basic by your standards, but as you recently observed, some people need to learn their appropriate place. The rest of the family may choose from our standard rooms." "This is outrageous," Natalie exclaimed. "I paid for the presidential villa." "Your deposit has been refunded in full," William informed her smoothly. "The owner's decision is final," my recorded self continued. "Oh, and Natalie? Remember how you mentioned luxury resorts can be overwhelming for someone of my background? Let's test that theory. I've arranged for you to work as a server at the beach bar during your stay. Consider it an educational opportunity about judging people based on their employment." Natalie's face contorted with indignation. "I absolutely refuse. Do you have any idea who I am?" "Yes," William replied calmly. "You're the mother-in-law of our owner, who has provided explicit instructions. If you prefer not to comply, you're welcome to depart, though the next available flight isn't for 3 days." Chaos erupted. Natalie threatened lawsuits, demanded phones, which mysteriously had no signal, and attempted to arrange private transportation, all unavailable by my directive. For the following 2 weeks, the formidable Natalie Anderson served tropical cocktails to her own family members, wearing the standard staff uniform she had previously ridiculed. Every drink she delivered featured her server badge prominently displaying Natalie T. But this isn't merely about revenge. After 2 weeks of monitoring the situation remotely, I boarded my private jet to the Maldives, timing my arrival to coincide with their departure. Natalie was working her shift at the beach bar, her designer wardrobe replaced by the simple staff uniform, her carefully maintained appearance wilted in the tropical humidity. "Enjoying yourself?" I asked, taking a seat at the bar. She regarded me silently, her earlier rage apparently replaced by exhaustion. Why orchestrate all this? Because you needed to understand that worth isn't determined by background or bank accounts, I replied. Every person who has served you a drink, prepared your meals, or maintained your room is a human being deserving of dignity. Tears formed in her eyes. I never considered it from that perspective. I know, I said softly. That was precisely the problem. In the 3 years since that transformative vacation, Natalie Anderson was completely changed. The experience of literally walking in someone else's shoes fundamentally altered her worldview. She established a foundation providing educational scholarships for service industry workers. More importantly, she finally learned to treat people with respect regardless of their occupation or background. Today, our family dinners have a different atmosphere. Natalie engages with serving staff about their aspirations and remembers their personal stories. Last Christmas, she insisted on serving the meal herself, explaining it helps her remain grounded. Royal Pearl Resort now operates a unique program where privileged individuals experience service positions firsthand. Natalie helps administer it, sharing her story as a cautionary tale about prejudice and humility. Lucas and I still enjoy our morning coffee at the same cafe where we met. Sometimes Natalie joins us, conversing easily with the baristas she once would have dismissed. She's discovered that true character isn't reflected in how you treat peers, but in how you treat those you previously considered beneath you. Recently, she surprised me with a handcrafted photo album containing images from that pivotal island vacation. On the final page, she'd written, "Thank you for teaching me that the clearest perspective comes from stepping off your pedestal." I keep that album in my office at the resort, a reminder that sometimes the greatest luxury isn't measured in thread counts or private aviation. It's found in recognizing the inherent value in every person you encounter. And Natalie? She still works one shift monthly behind the beach bar. She says it keeps her authentic,